back again on the Captain Show right here on YouTube. Got my funky glasses. Check that out from Camino. This was in the Kiva gift basket last night. So we're going to wear them. Thank you, Kiva. Much appreciated for the shades. All right. Come one and come all. We'll wait a few minutes here for some of you good folks to bring on in some more people here. We got some lemon iced tea stacked up and ready to roll. We also have a doobie with a dank seven wood tip on the end of it, sugar cane infused. And of course we got, I'm trying to think what the, King Calm, C-A-L-M, King Calm. And then of course I got a little banana tang shatter. I got about 1/4 gram rolled up into a snake, and that's rolled up in this doobie right here. Right there, guys. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to light that up here shortly. Come one and come all. All right, let's see what's on the, what's going on here. Debating free speech. Let's see.
For example, then it's fine for the government to say, listen, you're not going to protect what you have to under the First Amendment.
Ben Shapiro, or whatever his name is, on here talking about free speech like he knows what free speech is. Come on.
The business of First Amendment jurisprudence, that's what courts are for. Still, the president's executive order, which is really more advisory than anything else, doesn't do any harm, and I think that bringing some focus to the issue does some good.
The Southern Poverty Law Center recently lost its founder, Morris Dees, and its president, Richard Cohen, after multiple allegations that the organization they ran had become a hotbed of sexual harassment, sexism, and racism. But that's not SPLC's only.
Well, that was a year ago. We don't need to watch that. What's going on here? We don't want that. Let's see where we're going here. Let's see, 117. Let's do that one, I guess. All right, let's give this a little watch here.
It's a big moment for the country. The changing of the guard, a peaceful transfer of power.
All right, guys, it's that time again. Time to light up the doobie and let's roll.
There were solemn speeches today, sworn oaths, belted anthems, all echoing against the backdrop of 26,000 smartly attired federal troops.
We're gonna get right baked before it's time to crash out tonight.
It was all a lot to take, really.
Ooh,
so like
yeah.
many of you, we flipped on the tube to see what it meant. Here's what we want. Joe Biden respects government. He respects people who disagree with him. He listens to them.
I think that Joe Biden is going to train us to see the world differently.
What's up, guys? What's up?
We've gone from indecency to decency.
He filled that empathy void.
But there was not one part of that that wasn't just medicine.
There just wasn't one part of that just wasn't medicine. Oh, come on, man.
Shooting out from the Lincoln Memorial along the reflecting pool, it's like almost extensions of Joe Biden's arms.
Oh, boy.
America. It was a moment where
The lights going. These propagandists on media are insane.
Joe
Those
Biden-
lights, those lights, they're like the extension of Joe Biden's arms to America. Give me a fucking break. These people are professional propagandists, man. It's just terrible.
Biden's arms,
Just
planned
terrible.
hard from decades of empathetic labor on our behalf, will encircle us like lights from the Lincoln Memorial. And at that point, well, God knows, anything is possible. If there's a thin bead of sweat forming on your upper lip as you think about all of this, that's okay. Don't feel shame. Shame isn't
Nighthawk, what's up, Nighthawk?
And not just Joe Biden, Jill Biden too, Mrs. Biden, Dr. Biden. Together, the two of them, MSNBC informed us, will redeem this
All right, this is
nation
starting to run
through their
now.
love.
I'm not sure why.
On Paramount Mountain, a leader emerges.
Okay, according to my map, we can climb this together!
Oh, hold on. Who made you the leader? Just because you have a talking map? I got a talking clipboard. Hey, everybody. I'm a talking clipboard. Coach Power's the best. We should follow him. Woohoo. Fine, let's follow the talking map.
Vamonos!
Wait, so is the clipboard actually talking or not?
What a story, though. What a great love story between Jill Biden and Joe Biden. It's a different kind of marriage. This is a love match like the Obamas were. So I think that'll be healing for
This is unbelievable. Just the way they talk about these politicians. This is a love match. No, they should all be in prison. Every single last one of them. All, including Trump. Trump needs to be in prison too. But most people don't get that. They think you're either got to be Republican or you got to be Democrat. No, the whole lot of them got to go to prison.
The funny thing is, and
For very real crimes, by the way.
every person with a microphone, in every TV studio in America today, knew the
So Conor McGregor last night got knocked out.
For example, for certain,
Guess they're blaming it on inactivity, and that may very well be the case. Being inactive can definitely take you off your game, that's for sure. Cornette thinks you're a Trump supporter. Well, yeah, let's talk about Cornette, shall we? Let's see. We got I am super not. Hi, Val. Jim Cornette is running his mouth saying you lost your mind with the conspiracy theories. Yeah, well, you know, and nothing against Jim personally, but he needs to stick to the entertainment industry where his brain has actually been focused clearly for his entire life. He's honed that skill to be good at creating entertainment. But when it comes to the political war, when it comes to human rights, when it comes to true freedom and liberty, he's stepping into the ring with a man that knows politics and knows freedom and liberty like the back of his motherfucking hand. And he couldn't. He's biting off more than he can chew. He may not believe in his deluded mind that he's biting off more than he can chew, but politically, he couldn't stand on the stage and debate me based on the facts presented. Because apparently, Jim Cornette ignores facts. No, he does worse than that. Jim Cornette willfully and intentionally dismisses facts and calls them conspiracy theories. Well, I'm sorry. That is deluded. And it's sad that, you know, I heard a little bit about what he was saying there. And he's coming to these insane conclusions based on nothing more than what delusional people on Twitter are talking about. And, you know, the delusional people on Twitter, oh, Val Venus, he's a Trumper. You can keep saying that until your heart's content and it makes you all feel warm and fuzzy inside. But the reality is Trump needs to be in prison, just like Joe Biden needs to be in prison. And quite frankly, I think Jim Cornette needs to go get his head examined, maybe see a psychologist and understand what facts are when they're presented to you and try to turn on the critical thinking processes that I'm assuming were once available to Cornette. Obviously, that's clearly no longer available to him. He doesn't use any critical thinking processes. He just hears what's going on Twitter or what's presented to him and just runs with it at facts. And now I'm a crazy conspiracy theorist. I'm a Trumpster. None of that is true whatsoever. But it is what it is. People, I mean, especially the people on the left, man. The people on the left, these people are insane. They don't think logically. They base every single argument or every single position that they take as a leftist, they base on nothing more than feelings and emotions. And when you present them with facts and question their positions that are based on feelings and emotions, they trigger. And instead of looking at the facts and analyzing the facts, they immediately feel attacked and they dismiss the facts presented. It's the total opposite of what it's like to go through a critical thinking exercise when examining a fact. They don't do that at all. They go the other direction. They dismiss, ignore, and demonize if you keep trying to present it. And it's delusional. It's crazy. It's crazy.
Not many Americans support white supremacy. Most people in this country find it disgusting. Of course, and they should. But the question is, what is it exactly? Now that we're waging war on white supremacists, can somebody tell us in very clear language what a white supremacist is? That's not some picayune semantic question. Joe Biden is in a high school debate.
Frank C's asking if I have an account. Excuse me. An account on Gab. Yes, I do. At Val Venus ENT. It's the same handle that I did have on Twitter. At Val Venus ENT. I also have another one on there that I'm not using at this point, but I will be. It's at Dank Anarchy. And that'll be my my brand Gab page for my Canagar brand.
Bloomberg News has described a wall along our southern border as, quote, a monument to white supremacy. So be certain not to support that.
Yeah, you know, Jim Cornette really needs to stick to entertainment, stick to wrestling, stick to what he's good at. You know, if logical people would take a look at the facts and understand that Jim is, he's got a lot of knowledge in the wrestling business. And if I were looking for advice on doing something in pro wrestling, Jim Cornette is somebody I would go to and seek advice. There are several others I would seek advice from as well. When it comes to politics, I ain't going to Jim Cornette for his advice on political positions. If he wants, he can come to me for advice, but I ain't going to him for advice. That's a lost cause right there.
Here's the problem. Let's say you don't buy those definitions. Let's say you're, for example, white but poor, and you have trouble accepting the idea.
Yeah, I know. I can smell the jealousy, guys. I can smell the jealousy. The lenses are dope.
According to the United States Army, the quote, denial of white privilege is a classic sign of, yes, white supremacy. So no complaining. You can see the problem.
These radical leftists love to act like they're oppressed minority. But they are the ones that have full control over the media and social influence. You're right, man. You're right. Leftism is it's a dangerous ideology. And I don't just say that out of the blue because it makes me feel good to say it. I say it because I got all of history to back me up. And facts matter. And there hasn't been one time anywhere throughout history where a society has gravitated to more leftist policies where, let's just face it, it's literally robbed the private sector, the productive private sector population, and spread that stolen loot out to people that will continue to allow that robbing to happen. And it just becomes worse and worse and worse until the society literally collapses. And it's always the same excuses, right? It's always for the common good. It's always for society's safety. There's always some fear-mongering propaganda that it's the same playbook. Sal Alinsky's Rules for Radicals. It's the same playbook, man. They drum up fear. They scare the fuck out of human beings operating in the private sector, and then they gin up a solution. And then they get their propaganda arms at CNN and Fox News and MSNBC to push the solution, the magical solution. In this case, it's vaccines to COVID, or it's Joe Biden's whatever positions he has are going to take down the evil Trump positions. They're all evil, all of them. Now, I know Jim Cornette doesn't seem to understand that. He seems to love the government when the left are in charge, yet they are factually, facts matter, hashtags facts matter. The left are factually the most murderous ideology ever in human history. You know, it makes me sick to my stomach when I hear leftists say, oh, the worst religion or the worst, I guess you could say, murderous regime for the world is religion. Well, I agree. the religion of government, because even though the Crusades for the Christians and the Muslims slaughtering Christians, and they're just slaughtering each other, all that slaughtering going on together between all the small religions, whether it's Catholics, Christians, Muslims, whatever the case may be, doesn't measure up anywhere close to the religion of government. The 20th century alone saw 260 million innocent, not convicted, 260 million innocent human beings murdered by their own government in the 20th century alone. Okay, numbers matter. You don't get those kind of numbers with godly religions like, Christianity or Islam, or they still murder each other. No question about that. But the religion of government is hands down, by the numbers, the facts matter, hands down the worst religion humanity has ever devised. I mean, it depends how you want to define the worst, the worst religion to murder human beings in the private sector. How do you want to define that? Do you want to define it based on what CNN says, or do you want to define it on the very real numbers that matter? And a lot of leftists, they just turn it to CNN, man. And if they say Trump's the most murderous human being in the world, they'll just believe it. Just because some human on the boob tube is flapping their chops and they're just mesmerized. I don't know if y'all ever read the book 1984, but you can imagine when you're reading that book, for those of you that have, when you're reading that book and you see you see the people staring at that big screen TV, just listening to the one big head on the screen, just flapping his yaps, and they're just mesmerized and they're just absorbing. Their minds are turned off. Their critical thinking processes are turned off, and they're just absorbing bullshit, and they believe it. Of course, you always get that one person that's got his arms crossed, looking around at everybody else going, look at all these fucking morons staring at this TV, believing this dude. Look at these guys. And it's that's kind of what we see today in real life. I don't know. That's just my thoughts on that. A little disappointed that Jim Cornette just decided to come to a conclusion on me being mentally insane or whatever it is he called me, without ever calling me and asking me my side of the story as to why I left Twitter. Well, it just goes to show that's how fake news is created, right? They just run with whatever is flashy and spazazzy and whatever's going to get the people to listen. And, it is what it is, I guess. But I would go to Jim Cornette if I wanted advice on wrestling. I would not go to Jim Cornette for advice on politics or how you should live your life. Iron Baron says, Jim Cornette isn't even a good wrestling mind. What am I smoking? I'm smoking King Calm. Let me get back to that statement there. Jim Cornette isn't even a good wrestling mind, let alone political expert. That's from Iron Baron. Iron Baron, I don't know, man. I'd have to disagree with you. I mean, he ran Smoky Mountain Wrestling, did well with that. He had a really good run in WWE and, of course, elsewhere as well. I think Jim Cornette does have a good mind for wrestling when it comes to keeping things more simple and keeping things more realistic, because make no mistake about it, the guy can definitely make certain things look real. That's for sure. I wouldn't rely on Jim Cornette as my sole source for advice. That's for sure. I agree with you on that. But I think for a fairly large niche market, I think he's absolutely an expert on it. That's based on the facts of what he's done in his career, and just listening to him throwing ideas around and watching how his mind works when it comes to developing storylines and stuff. You kind of get an inkling. I know he knows what he's talking about when it comes to catering to that demographic. So if I'm going to cater to that specific demographic, Jim Cornette is a guy I would go to for advice. But for politics, hell no. I would never go to Jim Cornette for advice on politics. Apparently, based on the very simple things that I've seen so far and about how he responded to me and responded to Chris Jericho, apparently I went and watched how he responded to me and followed up. Right behind that was a video where he was responding to Chris Jericho. Wow. The way he responded to Chris Jericho, the ideology that I believe he may harbor. I'm not going to go so far as to say he harbors this ideology, but it certainly appears so with the limited information I've acquired thus far. It's a hardcore leftist ideology. And if it's true that he does harbor that hardcore leftist ideology, I mean, that's a dangerous ideology to be harboring. And I say that not just because it sounds good for sound bites or sound clips, because I got all the motherfucking history to prove that the ideology of the hardcore leftist persuasion is one of the most dangerous to any private sector human being anywhere on the planet. It's the most dangerous ideology humanity's ever devised. And it certainly appears that from just the limited amount that I've acquired so far in terms of facts, and that's in the way he responded to my questions. It's how he responded to Jericho's actions, I guess. And it certainly appears he harbors that extremely dangerous ideology. I mean, look what's happening on TV. They're sitting there saying on TV, on CNN, these are fully grown men and women on CNN moving their chops and saying or asking the question to their colleagues alive on the air many times over. We got 74 million people that voted for Trump. What do we do with these guys? And they're saying, well, we may have to do reprogramming programs. Okay, you know what? If you don't know history, then you will never recognize what that really means. That is a dangerous ideology, and it's openly in public by fully grown adults getting paid some good scratch on CNN to act like journalists when really they're just the CIA's propagandists, and you can tell because they don't present the facts and let you make up your own mind. No, they discuss how openly, in broad daylight, how they're going to reprogram 74 million people to what? To not think differently than a leftist? It's a dangerous ideology, guys. It's a dangerous ideology. Now, if you know history, you can absolutely clearly recognize how dangerous that really is. But the problem is the majority of Americans, they're so dumbed down. They don't teach this stuff in schools anymore. So people literally spend 13 years in these government-funded public schools, and they come out of those schools completely ignorant to the facts of history that would help them clearly decipher through critical thinking processes that, holy shit, that political party over there, they're spewing some stuff that I've read in history books clearly led to nowhere good. But they don't, because they don't have that information. That's been left out of the public school system. You get these kids coming out of high school, and they don't even understand the Constitution. They don't understand why the Constitution was created. What attempt by writing the Constitution was being made at keeping big government, held down by chains. These kids don't even understand this stuff. It's a failure of the public schooling curriculum, which is government curriculum. And if you know history, if you're a student of history, it should not be difficult to see what's happening with CNN, Fox News, MSNBC, along with all the hacks in government, all the congressmen, all the senators. It's to see what they're doing it's history repeating itself, and not on a good path at all. And if you look at Jim Cornette, he's one of those guys, he's completely ignorant to history. Now, he may disagree with me on that. Doesn't matter. If I present the facts, he has one or two choices at that point: dismiss the facts and just label me crazy and walk off with his tail tucked between his legs on the back end, but yapping how much of a king he is in this debate, walking away. They're just delusional. But when you present the facts and sit down and get the critical thinking processes geared up, and you analyze those facts with a critical eye, you can't be honest with yourself and come to any other conclusion that the leftist ideology is hands down one of the most dangerous ideologies mankind has ever devised. It's just, it's insane. Now, because I'm really railing against the leftist ideology, don't think I won't rail against the right, because they're dangerous as well. These guys are a lot. Trump, 4 years in office, he had the opportunity to do one executive order, decommission that central banking cartel that fleeces the value generated by the private sector in America every single day. He had the opportunity to shut that scam operation down, have those people arrested and thrown in prison for the rest of their lives, but he didn't. Instead, he engaged against the Democrats, creating this distraction where the Democrats are fighting the Republicans, the Republicans are fighting the Democrats, and meanwhile, this central banking cartel called the Federal Reserve is printing currency at the fastest pace ever in American history, fleecing the value generated by the private sector community in America right out of America. All that value is being fleeced out of America right now as we speak. And of course, you have the Trumpsters and you have the crazy communists, doing this, and you got media stirring it up, and everybody's involved in what's going on between this fight here, between the left and the right and the media. And no one's paying attention to that Federal Reserve, literally fleecing the value out of what was an empire. It won't be an empire when they're done. By the time the people wake up and stop fighting and realize that their loaf of bread now costs $1 million, literally $1 million, and you're like, fuck, I only got $13 in the bank, you may realize real quick that you should have been paying attention to what was happening at that Federal Reserve and not fighting amongst yourselves like the Democrats and Republicans are having you all do. Facts matter, guys. You want the real truth beyond politics, because the politics is just a distraction, dangerous distraction, because these, everything they make up and do is enforced at the barrel of government's guns. Okay, make no mistake about that. And if you don't believe me, just go do something simple like go jaywalk in front of a cop where he's going to pop you for jaywalking, and then try to run away from him. Try to run away from him. And then when he catches you and takes you to the ground, resist that kidnapping attempt and watch what happens. Out comes the barrel of government's gun, and they will not hesitate to fill you full of lead if they feel that their life's in danger, or they have the opportunity to use the excuse that they felt their life was in danger. Some of these guys are looking for any excuse to fill someone full of lead and put that notch on their belt. Make no mistake about it. These are government employees. So they're already, their moral standard is already lower than what I would consider an average private sector human. And I can prove that with facts too. These human beings that go and put on badges and wear guns and go around enforcing some politician's little diktats. It'd be one thing if they were stopping rapists, stopping fraud, robberies, doing their investigations to bring justice to victims. Yeah, okay, but they don't do that. I mean, I shouldn't say that. I almost misspoke there. They do those things. But on top of that, they also will not hesitate to come and bust someone who's peacefully smoking a joint inside a park. I'm sorry, where's the victim in this? You had some politician that doesn't like pot and decides he just wants everybody arrested to, if they have pot. I'm sorry, if you don't like pot, don't do pot, but you have no business to empower other human beings with badges and guns to go and arrest other people that are enjoying pot. I'm sorry, that's immoral and unethical. I don't give a shit what your little scribbly, bullshit, chicken scratch inside a law book says. We're looking at facts here. Facts matter. I'm a fully grown adult. If I want to smoke pot, I'm going to smoke pot. You got some politician says, nope, we don't like it, so you're not allowed. I'm a fully grown adult, motherfucker. Go build our roads. Don't tell us we can't smoke pot. But that's what happens. You give government an inch to go build your roads, and the next thing you know, they're dictating to you and threatening you at the barrel of government's guns if you smoke pot. It's crazy. And how we ever accepted that as a society, as something that's just normal, is insane. That's insane that you can have fully grown adult human beings that can break down your home's door and literally do a state-sanctioned kidnapping because someone's smoking pot. Another fully grown adult peacefully smoking pot. It's crazy. How did we ever come to that idea that that was somehow okay and still run around every July 4th waving our little flags looking, we're the freest humans in the world? I don't know. It's insane to me. Absolutely insane. So that's my rambling tonight. Let's smoke up the rest of this doobie. So I hear that Conor McGregor, I didn't get to see the fights last night. I really wanted to, but I heard Conor McGregor got knocked out. They're blaming it on a lack of inactivity, and that may be true. I would have liked to have seen him win and start climbing that ladder again. It may be very well due to the lack of inactivity. I know he's begging for more fights right now, so that may be a good thing. But either way, Conor McGregor has made a fan out of the big Val Boski. And anytime he fights, whether he's on the downside of his career and his chances of actually pulling out a victory become less and less, I'm probably still going to watch the guy. That's an enterprising dude right there. That's a guy that took the free market by the balls and ran with it. And yeah, man, that was a pretty cool story to see him, go through the UFC. I guess he was on the show first, whatever that, I can't remember what the name of that show is. The UFC show, all living in the house and whatnot. And then, of course, starts off his career on the main roster in UFC, and it was a great story, right? And I don't believe that story's over. There's only one, this is hinging on one fact. And I don't know what that fact is. But the question can frame the fact that we're looking for. And the question is passion. Does Conor McGregor have the passion that he had before being in a position where he doesn't have to do this anymore? And so he doesn't have to fight anymore. He's financially set to the point where, or should be anyways, he's financially set where if he lives a modest life, he's good for the rest of his life and probably his kids as well. Now, if he goes off and he starts getting mansions and, tons of cars, there's going to come a day when the revenue stops coming in, and now you've got all these expenses to maintain all this stuff, and it whittles away real quick at whatever you have saved. That would be a bad move for him. But if he's still just remaining modest and just, doing some real basic conservative investments, he doesn't have to fight anymore. That's a downward pressure on incentive for motivation. I heard The Rock say one time, and I'm not attributing this to The Rock because I think he heard it from somewhere, because I do believe I've heard it somewhere else before. But the first person I heard say it personally was The Rock. And it went something along the lines like, you get to your best by being hungry. And he didn't mean hungry as in motivated just out of the blue. He meant hungry where you're uncomfortable. In your standard of living, in your position in life, you're uncomfortable. If you can maintain that uncomfort or that non-comfort, it's just another driving factor to motivate yourself to really push harder. And if he still has the passion to fight, the same passion he had before he became financially set, I think he could continue this storybook for a lot of more, quite a few more years. But let's face it, when you are in that financial position where you don't have to get up in the morning and go and train to win that big fight and get that next big paycheck, it is some downward pressure on motivation, and I think that's a big factor. So the question is, in order to acquire the fact that we're all looking for here, we have to frame the fact by asking the question, and the question is, we identify what the main foundation is for motivating a human being, and of course, that's incentive, right? And you get that incentive through having a passion for something. So that leads us to the question: is Conor McGregor maintaining for the fight game the same passion that he had before he became financially set? If the answer to that question is yes, he can probably still, as long as he gets the rust off of his skills and talents, and he can fight more often, which is what he's begging for. I could see him continuing that storybook for his career for several more years. But with that downward pressure of being financially set, that's a powerful disincentive. Is what it's downward pressure on motivation is all I'm saying. And so that's really the question, guys. Does he have the passion to drive the motivation to get him to get up and go to the gym and work just as hard or even harder than he did before? That's the question. Is the passion there? Let's see. I'm sorry, guys. Let's see. BTOHLER89. He says, let's see. Hey, Val, I had a question about smoking CBD flower. It sounds kind of odd to ask. I want to try smoking it sometimes, but I'm nervous. I'm going to mess my lungs up. Is it true that you will do that? So, BK, I'm just going to tell you this. I'm a huge fan of cannabis, okay? But just because I'm a huge fan of this, facts matter. You're inhaling combusted plant material. Now, if you're just inhaling just the cannabinoids, which you can do by collecting the resin off the plants and dabbing it, for example, then you're just getting the medicine in. The reality is, I don't believe personally, I haven't seen any evidence. So I do believe, according to what the information I do have at this point in my life, that raw THC in small amounts is not going to harm your lungs at all. And that's just based on the information I've acquired so far. That doesn't mean that 5 years from now we can say, oh no, there's this is what THC does. That could absolutely happen. But I see no evidence of it, and there's a long history of humans using cannabis, and we just don't see any evidence of that. But inhaling combusted plant material of any kind, I mean, even though the cannabinoids are said to protect the cells of the lungs that you're inhaling with that smoke, I don't know. I can't come to the conclusion that this is a healthy way to consume cannabis. It's absolutely not. I enjoy it. This is kind of like my nighttime vice. So you live at a certain risk level, inhaling combusted plant material. Once in a while, if you're a healthy person, I don't think it's going to cause any harm at all. Even if you just do small amounts nightly, you know what I mean? I don't think it's going to do any harm. Not to say that we won't find out 5, 10, 20 years down the road, but I certainly don't see any evidence from a long history of humans using cannabis, and I don't expect that to happen. But who knows? Cannabis, however, when you eat it or turn it into what's called a Rick Simpson oil, well, it became famous as a Rick Simpson oil. It's just a full spectrum extract of the cannabinoids pulled off the plant material, and it's turned into a kind of a paste. And you can use that to put into edibles, or you can rub it on your gums, or you just put it on a cracker and eat a cracker. Anytime you eat cannabis, in my view, THC and CBD and CBG and all the other cannabinoids, these are nutrients that stimulate the human endocannabinoid system and supercharge the immune system. And facts matter. It's healthy for you. But smoking it, is smoking anything healthy? No, it's not. It's just You know, we all take different risks, right? I think that would be disingenuous to say that smoking flower is, you know, by any stretch of the means, anything resembling healthy. What do you think of Undertaker's latest comments on the Joe Rogan today's? So Iron Baron. So Iron Baron's asking me about Undertaker on the Joe Rogan podcast. Hold on, guys. Let's take another rip together, shall we? Shall we take another rip and then we'll talk about Taker? How about that? What time do we got here? We got. We'll talk about Taker for another 5 minutes, and then I'm calling it a night, guys. All right. So let's take another rip right here. You have to call me Nighthawk is going to be smoking some ice cream cake. Very good. All right, guys. All right. So let's talk a little Undertaker, shall we? So I didn't hear what Undertaker said, but I did read about it. People were posting it online a couple times throughout the day. Is it being soft? I can't really say. I'm not in a position to say. I haven't watched very much product in professional wrestling for the last several years, so I don't really know the product. The only things I really catch are just little clips here and there while I'm doing cardio and just going through YouTube. You know, a clip might come across my timeline and I watch a couple minutes of it, but I don't know the product, so I can't give you an honest assessment of that. I do know that there are a lot of clips that I'm watching while I'm doing cardio that I don't know. It looks more like a gymnastic show than a wrestling exhibition. I mean, to me, wrestling is supposed to be, you know, kind of a wrestling exhibition. You know, fazzled and dazzled up. You know, with some storyline thrown in with it. But it just seems like it's becoming more of a gymnastics show. Now, I'm not saying every match. I've seen some really good content coming out of AEW. That I've seen a few matches on YouTube up there that, yeah, I was like, oh man, those guys did really, really well. And then I watch other matches where I'll laugh and chuckle at it. It's good entertainment, but it ain't wrestling. It's like theater. It's like you're not watching two people go out there and put on a fighting exhibition. You're looking at. I feel like I should be walking into a real fancy theater where there's a stage and we're all facing one way and we're all wearing tuxedos and we get little glass wine glasses with wine in it. You're all sipping it and you put them in little glass holders and you clap like this, you know, when something good happens. That's what I kind of get the feeling like when I'm watching some of these AEW matches. It just feels like, oh yeah, this is straight up theater. They're kind of getting away from, and this is just based on the limited data that I've acquired while watching cardio. That's really about it. But I just feel like, yeah, this is absolutely theater. Whereas it used to be, you wanted the kids in the first few rows to go, okay, hey, mom, dad, I know this is like predetermined, but I think you really hit them. And you want to, you know, suspend one's sense of reality. That was how I was always taught from day one. Your job is to entertain the fans and suspend their sense of reality and do your very best to get them emotionally involved into what's going on inside the ring. And I don't feel an emotional attachment to a lot of the content that I'm seeing coming out of AEW. I feel like I'm being entertained as if I'm watching a gymnastics show. Like, ooh, that was a good move. Oh, yeah, that was a great spot. But no emotional connection. It was just, you know, ding, ding, bing, bang, boom, bing, flip, flop, boom, spin around, whatever. And it doesn't suspend my sense of reality. I feel like I'm sitting in a theater being entertained, but being entertained in a different way than what I would call pro wrestling. I don't know if that makes sense, guys, but I just feel like the little bit of content that I watch on AEW, I feel like I should be sitting in a theater in a tuxedo where there is no ring in the middle of the fans. It's up on a stage and it's all fancy dancy, and you can tell it's theater. It's meant to entertain you, but not to suspend your sense of reality. Whereas pro wrestling used to be meant not just to entertain you, but to entertain you by suspending your sense of reality and making you question what you're seeing in that ring. And getting an emotional connection with the fans as well. I think that's an important factor that I just don't see a lot of today. There are veterans out there that are still working hard to get that emotional connection with fans, and that's great to see. But it just seems to be becoming fewer and fewer people doing that. And I don't know if that makes sense. I don't know if that makes sense or not. Well, there you go. Iron Baron says you're not missing much other than homoerotic gymnastics. Great analogy, Baron. Great analogy. That's kind of what it feels like, right? So yeah, let's get back to I'm all high and shit, and I got off topic here. We were talking about Undertaker and his comments. So yeah, I went way off the rails there, right? So yeah, Undertaker and his comments. Is it soft? I can't disagree. Based on the limited data that I've acquired just doing cardio and watching clips here and there, like I said, my view could completely change if I absorbed the entire product and understood the product in the storylines and whatever else is going on. That may change, but based on the small amount of data that I've seen so far, I'm not going to disagree with Undertaker. I'm gonna agree with him. I'm gonna agree with him. There are I'm not going to say that straight across the board, so I don't know if Taker was meaning straight across the board the entire show, or if he was just meaning, a certain segment of the industry is soft. But for me, I would say, man, more than 2/3 of the content I see is what I would consider soft. Definitely. Jim Ross for speaking the truth and giving them helpful criticism. Jim Ross is, in my view, one of the best color commentators pro wrestling's ever had. I was never really friends with Jim Ross. I never hung out with him or anything like that. We were just kind of, we did business. That was it. That was really the extent of any relationship that I had with Jim Ross. We would talk every once in a while, but about other things other than work. I don't know for a fact, but I'm pretty sure that Jim felt uncomfortable with me talking politics all the time. Like Kane and I we would talk about politics all the time, talk about political issues that affect real human beings. And of course, when you get that in depth into politics, there's people that don't want to be anywhere around that, right? So, Kane and I would be off in a corner somewhere, and we're just talking about different political issues. And, I remember Jim Ross coming by a few times, and he just stop and look and kind of shake his head and keep on walking, But whatever. I mean, I respect the guy. I think the guy is hands down one of the best color commentators. I can tell you this. Whenever Jim Ross was color commentating any of my matches, I definitely thought about it before and after the match. Like, it was like, man, I'm going out there, I'm going to perform, and Jim Ross is going to call this match. And I would, it's not something that, maybe the first year or so, every time that happened, it was, you get that, wow, I can't believe this. Jim Ross is calling my match. After that, it was something that would just go through my head, but I was kind of the starstruck part of that was the novelty, I guess, of it. Wore off, but it was still cool enough to where, all right, another match called by Jim Ross, and I walked down to the ring. You know what I mean? It was something I thought about regularly, which means, you know, it's something I definitely have respect for. He was, I like other color commentators as well. I thought Coach was great. Um, Cole was great as well. But there's just something about Jim Ross. I don't know what it is, the way he calls matches. And him teamed with Lawler. Oh my God. Greatest color commentating team, I think, ever. Joey Styles, I think. Now, I didn't get he was another guy that I would have loved to have him call a lot more of my matches. But yeah, Joey Styles is another one. I think he's phenomenal as well. But Jim Ross is just something. For me, it's more of a nostalgic kind of connection because I've watched, you know, even coming up through pro wrestling as a young guy. I'd watch Raw, and of course, there's Jim Ross. I'd watch WCW, and there's Jim Ross. And even going back before that, it was one of those things where he was kind of the guy I grew up with, watching call the matches that I really cared about. And then all of a sudden, you know, 10 years later, he's calling one of my matches. Yeah, that was pretty dope, man. That was pretty dope, for sure. For sure. Very dope. Very dope. ECW was gritty and libertarian as hell. ECW was violent. All right, you should see Jim Ross calling new matches. He sounds like he doesn't want to be there half the time. Well, you know, that's one thing, Iron Baron, is and I understand, you know, JR's got to make money, man. He needs that paycheck. And so he's going to do whatever the company asks him to do, and that's his job, right? From a company perspective, ultimately, what is a company's main goal? It's to provide a certain segment of the private sector community with something they want, need, or desire. Now, we all need roads. We all need bread. We all need water. We all need, you know, steaks that we can go and buy at the supermarket. We all need things. Well, one of the things humans need are entertainment. And Jim Ross is a piece of the puzzle, and in my view, an important piece of that puzzle that creates what is this overall entertainment entity that is attempting to entertain human beings in the private sector to the point where those human beings are more than willing to part with the currency they worked hard for. I mean, they labored for that currency. So you want to get them to give you that value, and you got to provide them with something that they're willing to separate with their value. And so you have to produce entertainment that's going to, I believe, cater to the most for the least, I guess you could say. And so when you're entertaining people, I think there's certain things that I don't know, with professional wrestling, there's certain things that you got to cross your T's and dot your I's when you're producing something that other human beings are going to want, need, or desire in the form of entertainment. And the people in AEW, like I said, instead of suspending my sense of reality, making me question of what I'm watching, is there some truth to what I'm watching here? Is it, because this certainly looks, holy crap, super tight. And I don't know, man, I'm questioning whether that, you know, crossface chicken wing, it was because I don't know, you got to suspend the fan sense of reality, and I don't get that from AEW. I get like I'm sitting in a theater where I know for a fact that I'm watching theater. And when it comes to Jim Ross, he's there for the paycheck. And that's, he's just doing as he's told. But for example, Nyla Rose. Nyla Rose is a transgender wrestler. And they brought Nyla Rose in. And, the majority of the wrestling fans understand that Nyla Rose is transgender. And they throw Nyla Rose right into the women's division and just have fully grown men, as in Jim Ross, sit there on the air and talk to the world, color commentating, painting the narrative as if Nyla Rose was born a biological female and is evenly competing against other biologically born females. And so it's that misdirect that the company's narrative is pushing a fully grown man to no longer suspend the sense of reality of the fans, and literally tells the fans, we're not suspending your sense of reality. This is theater. And I don't know, man. Maybe there's a market for that. Clearly, I suppose there is. I mean, people are watching AEW. I don't know what the ratings are like, but they're watching it. So there is a market for it. I highly suspect that is a small social justice warrior market that doesn't really understand the idea of suspending people's sense of reality in order to entertain them. And so I think the booking of Nyla Rose was absolutely atrocious. They just left a bunch of money on the table. I've always been taught in pro wrestling that when you're designing a storyline, to give it the best opportunity to succeed and make that connection with the people you're trying to entertain, it's got to be based on something that's happening in real life in some way, shape, or form. People got to be able to make a connection with it because, oh yeah, I've seen that happen in Connecticut, or I see that happening over here or over there. So now they're doing this on TV. Wow, man, it gives you an idea of, it gives the person an idea that, oh yeah, this could be real because it is real over here. And if we take a look at the storylines in real life of transgenders, transgender females going into female high school and college track and field competitions. These are biological males that have transitioned to female and they're competing against biological females. That's happening in real life. They're going to court over this. They're going to court in Connecticut and Florida and Texas. These people are going to court all over the country over this because I guess I haven't seen any of the facts proving this is true, but I'm assuming it is because nobody's dismissed it. Everybody's reporting on it as if it's fact, that there are high school students that were top-notch female track athletes or basketball athletes or whatever the case may be. And they were being looked at for scholarships, but then when the biological male was allowed to compete and destroyed everybody, apparently scholarships went to these biological males. So, and I guess they're all going to court over that. Now, the court cases, I know there's one big one going on in Connecticut, another one in Florida, another one in Texas. There's other ones that I don't know about that I've heard are going on. I just haven't gone and looked into them yet. But this is happening in real life. So if your job as a professional wrestling company is to suspend the fans' sense of reality, why wouldn't you run with that angle? Why wouldn't you have Nyla Rose come in as a transgender, confront Cody Rhodes or whatever? I'm just giving out a quick idea here. I mean, obviously you could refine this and make it much more, palatable to the idea that, hey, we're going to suspend the fan sense of reality and make them question what they're watching is real or not. So why wouldn't you have Nyla Rose come in, confront Cody Rhodes and say, hey, I'm Nyla Rose. I want to wrestle in the women's division. I'm a woman. I want to, go out there and do my best. I'm a competitor, blah, 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 do the whole rundown. And Cody Rhodes, hey, listen, I understand your position. We're a pro wrestling company. This is a lawsuit waiting to happen. If I allow you to go in there as a biological male and transition into female, you're putting me in a tough position because how do I say no and not get backlash, but say yes and risk having a lawsuit because maybe you hurt a female wrestler because you are a male. And you just have the fireworks go off. And of course, the fans are going to be like, oh, they're going to be shocked. They're going to be divided. And when you get them divided, that's the key right there. Remember the old school philosophy. The more you can get the fans to hate the heel, and the more you can get the fans to love the babyface, the more disparity you can get between those two. In between is where the dollars are made. And you could have Jim Ross out there saying this is atrocious. You know, have Nyla Rose do a court case, you know, whatever. She wins the court case. This court order now forces Cody Rhodes to allow her to compete in the women's division. She goes in there and destroys everybody and then runs into that one female that you're going to make a massive star. And she's going to be built on the idea that she was the one female that could take down Nyla Rose. And they could have ran with that for 2, 3, 4 years. Who knows how long they could have ran with that. That's to me, that's money in the bank. But no. And Jim Ross, poor Jim Ross, a fully grown adult, has to sit out there and act like Nyla Rose is not a transgender, was born a female. And he's, you know, what he's forced to do basically tells the fans that this is theater. We're not suspending your sense of reality here. Just sit back and enjoy what you see. And I don't know. I just don't think that's what wrestling was supposed to be. That's not what I grew up with. I think they left a lot of money on the table with Nyla Rose. And but you can't question it, though, because the second you question their booking of Nyla Rose, you get attacked. Oh, you're a homophobe. You're a racist. You're the... And it's such an onslaught that you're like, whoa. And finally, you just throw your hands up in the air, and the next thing you know, you walk away, and you're known as a racist or a homophobe, and you can't even... The society is so dumbed down that if you question their narrative, they don't examine what their answers are. They don't even process what their answer might be. They look at your question as you're attacking my narrative, and I'm a snowflake, and now I'm going to trigger a meltdown, and you are a homophobe and a racist, and you should be banned from Twitter, blah, blah. And you're like, whoa, what the fuck? You can't even ask questions of these people anymore. You know, I gave my opinion on the Nyla Rose booking, and the next thing you know, Cody Rhodes goes on to say, well, Val Venus, we just think he doesn't really believe the things he's saying. It's disgusting. And he said awful things about Nyla Rose. It's like, really? What awful thing did I say about Nyla Rose? Like, they come to conclusions without looking for facts. They hear other people flap their mouths, or they read Twitter tweets, and they just come to conclusions based on nothing but their feelings and emotions that are attached to a certain narrative. And I'm attacking their narrative by questioning that narrative. Critical thinking in America is shot. And now I hear Cody Rhodes wants to run for some political office somewhere. And that doesn't surprise me. You know, critical thinkers, they migrate towards positions in government. Sociopaths, right? They want to exercise power and control over other human beings' ability to live their own lives. And I can definitely see Cody Rhodes not thinking critically, not looking for facts before coming to conclusions. And just, you know, he become one of those Joe Biden guys. Stroke of a pen, there's an executive order. King Cody. And I don't know. I wish him all the best, but it is what it is, I guess. That's my rant on AEW and Jim Ross. And Soyboy Cody says Dusty should be ashamed of his Soyboy children. I don't know, man. I don't think Dusty's very political. You know, he may be. I've never known him to be political. I like Dustin, man. Dustin's a good dude. He may not like me anymore, but oh well. And Nyla Rose and Sunny Kiss. See, I like to play defense once in a while. Sonny Kiss, it's pro wrestling. There's a market for that character. I think Sonny Kiss could be, I don't know, a great wrestler, really. Execution of some of the moves is really good, but Sonny Kiss resorts to, in my view, the stuff I've seen, to the same stuff that makes me think I'm sitting in a theater in a tuxedo watching a play on stage, as opposed to this is pro wrestling. And I'm wondering if what I'm watching, if these two are really smacking each other the way they are, really, cranking up on a hold, or I don't know, man. It just looks like a gymnastics show. And Sonny Kiss, I think, engages in a lot of that. If Sonny Kiss were to go old school and maybe watch stuff from Gorgeous George from back, like way back, the old black and white videos of Gorgeous George. And if Sonny Kiss went to work old school, like a Gorgeous George, I think Sonny Kiss would be talented enough to pull something like that off and make wrestling make sense, make it logical, and create an emotional attachment with the fans, and really make the match no longer feel like you're watching theater and like you're watching a pro wrestling match. So I don't know. I think Sonny Kiss has the skills, but I think Sonny Kiss's mind is in the let's do theater type of pro wrestling rather than, hey, let's do pro wrestling. Just my opinion. Just my opinion. And I didn't even think about Sonny Kiss, but you could probably do, you do that big run with Nyla, and you run that all the way to the bank, and until it stops, because all storylines are going to eventually start to curve downwards in profitability. And when they start to curve down, that's when you change it up, right? And I could see some possibilities. I don't know. I'd have to actually brainstorm ideas, look around what's going on in real life, and see how we could apply those things that are happening anywhere in real life, economically, socially, whatever, and apply it to a storyline between Nyla Rose and Sonny Kiss, or have them tagging, or have them feuding. I don't know. But it just feels like you could find something that, would suspend people's sense of reality. Like, oh crap, that storyline could very well be real. They're certainly making it look real. I don't know. That's just my views on it. Guys. I'm sorry, I'm not watching your comments here. Sonny makes Dolph Ziggler look like Clint Eastwood. Sonny makes Dolph Ziggler look like Clint. Yes, okay, I get it. Yes. Sonny Kiss belongs on your face. I don't know, man. I guess to each his own. Who's your favorite manager in the wrestling industry? Man, that's a loaded question. I'm not going to tell you who is my favorite manager in pro wrestling, because I had a few different managers, and they were all pretty damn good in their own right. But I'm not gonna say which one I like the most. Put me in between a rock and a hard place there. Nope. Maybe somewhere in the future I'll let everybody know what who my favorite manager was, but not now. Guys, I'm going to take a couple more rips, and then we're going to call it an evening. I went 25 minutes longer than I expected to go. But that's what happens when you get blazed, right? Let's get a cherried up doobie here. How long did it take you to get zucked? I've been zucked a few times, man. I'm on a suspension right now, but I'm gonna finish up on Facebook as well. I ended my main account on Twitter. I still have my Freetarian account, but I'm not going to engage in any back and forth debates anymore on Twitter. On my Freetarian account, whenever I post on Gab, I'm just going to share it to my Freetarian account, and just so people can say, "Oh crap, he's on Gab," And then if they want to come over and debate with me, they can debate with me on Gab. But I'm not going to debate on Twitter anymore, man. It's can become a leftist cesspool, and I'm not saying that to knock any Democrats or anything like that. I'm just saying that Twitter used to have a good, when I scrolled through my timeline, there'd be a good mix of people on the left, people on the right, communists, libertarians, anarchists. I had a good mix of all different perspectives for a couple of years. And then we started heading into this election, about a year and a half before the election. All of a sudden, I noticed my timeline is getting to be more and more just leftist ideology, where it was in a good even mix all throughout my timeline. And, I'd be researching everybody's different positions and then questioning those positions. And now I'm starting going, what the hell? Like, where's all my libertarian content? Where's all my conservative content? Where's all my, there's lots of communist content on there. And it seemed like instead of getting the facts, like I was following a lot of, I was following the MIT professor, the guy that, what's his name? He invented he had the patent stolen from him, but he was the guy that coded up email for the very first time. That MIT professor, I follow him. There are a lot of different, very knowledgeable people that I followed, and it was a good mix from all different ideologies for a couple of years. And then a year and a half ago, before this election, it just seemed like almost weekly, my timeline was filling up with more and more leftism. And I just started like seeing it just flooded. And then the last 6 months before the election, nothing but leftism with maybe a sprinkle of a right wing story in there or something. You know what I mean? And it was getting disgusting. And when I questioned a leftist position, they would try, you can see the inklings of them trying to jump on, but you'd also get people from all different perspectives jumping in on that too. And it just seemed like it was a more well-rounded debate. But as my timeline was being shadow banning anything that was against the leftist narrative, it seemed like you go to question the same thing you would do 2 years ago. I'd go to question that leftist narrative, just asking a question. That's all I would do. And when you ask that question, these people are so delusional that they think that immediately they just jump to the conclusion that you're attacking their narrative. When you question, you're just putting down a question. What facts do you rely on that would prove to me what you're claiming is true? All of a sudden, that question becomes an attack on their narrative, and they trigger. And when they trigger, and your timeline's filled with nothing but leftists, it's just, you get hundreds just swarming in, and you're a racist, you're a homophobe, you don't care about poor people, you're a Nazi. I'm tired of being called a Nazi. That's just insanity. Like, I'm sorry, I'm looking at all these leftists pointing at me, making labels and slapping them on me. These guys are factually being the Nazis, yet they're calling me the Nazi for asking a question. And it just got so ridiculous that, and then of course we find out that Twitter's been suspending and banning anybody that counters a leftist narrative. And that's just when I said, okay, you know what? I posted, FBI's not doing anything about Hunter. I don't know how this guy's not already arrested. This guy's laptop, and the photos are out there, guys. You just got to look for them. They're out there. People are constantly reposting them. The FBI is not doing anything. It boggles my mind how these photos, and the FBI, the photos that are out there off Hunter Biden's laptop, those photos are just the tip of the iceberg. And the FBI not only has those photos, they've got way more on that laptop in their possession, just based off the photos that went public and that Twitter and Facebook keep pulling down. The guy should be arrested. And the fact that he's not is mind-boggling. So I took all these pictures, and I took them right from the web and threw them right up on Twitter. And I said, anybody want to investigate this motherfucker, Hunter Biden? These aren't Photoshop, these are photos off the man's laptop. Nobody's denying that. This facts matter here, guys. The only people denying that may be somebody like Jim Cornette that has no clue what he's talking about. None whatsoever. And they're doing nothing. And then Twitter basically said they blocked my account, and they said you're not going to be able to use your account unless you agree to remove this tweet, this tweet, this tweet, this tweet, this tweet. And I went, all right. I went delete, 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 delete. And then finally the 12-hour countdown started. You'll have access to your account in 12 hours or whatever it said. And when 12 hours came, I put up a couple more tweets and then said, fuck it, I'm out of here. And I left Twitter, and I just said, I'm just going to keep using Gab. I already had a Gab account set up. I posted a couple of things, but never really used it. But now I'm over there using it. I'm building that up now. I'm just done with Twitter. It's just ridiculous. Just ridiculous. I'm still shocked that not only is Hunter Biden, well, it doesn't shock me, it's government. And that's why I say you're never going to get away from this kind of corruption. There's the platform called government is a magnet for the worst kind of sociopathic humans on the face of the planet. It always has been all throughout history. The worst of humankind amongst us gravitate towards positions of power in government. And so that's why government is just riddled with corruption from top to bottom. You are never going to be free unless we abolish the platform called government and replace it with a representative body. Now, a representative body is a body of human beings, maybe professional fundraisers, I don't know, but they will provide the roads or whatever, or provide an opportunity for people to provide the roads, however it is they want to do it. But those roads are going to be funded without resorting to a professional extortion racket called a taxing agency. It's just an extortion. And, you can't claim to be free yet under the thumb of an extortion racket. You just can't. And you're never going to get rid of this kind of corruption, whether it's Donald Trump or whether it's Joe Biden. That corruption is always going to be there. It always has been there. It always will be there. And you're never going to get rid of it unless you all agree we abolish the platform called government. In other words, you go build us our roads, and you don't have the ability to tell us we can't smoke pot. We're all fully grown adults here. Okay? We're electing people because we need roads, not to dictate to other fully grown adults that you're not allowed to smoke pot, and they'll come kidnap your ass at the barrel of a government gun, by the way. Come and kidnap your ass and lock you in a cage. I'm sorry, I'm a fully grown adult. If I want to smoke pot, I'm going to smoke pot. Now go build our roads. That is what you can tell your representative body. Try to tell that to the government, the DEA will be kicking down your door, and the jackboot thugs will be coming in. You broke the law. You violated our written instrument called cannabis prohibition laws. Well, I'm sorry, I didn't even realize governments ever presented any facts proving any human beings obligated to obey those written instruments in the first place. Just my thoughts. All right, guys. That's it for me. I got to hit the sack. Till next time, guys. Peace.